Hello, career competitor. This is Steve Meller, as always, here to share with you some powerful conversation and some significant insights into what it means to optimize your career in pursuit of your optimal self. I am excited to be introducing our guest here shortly, but as always, let me draw your attention to careercompetitor.com, where you'll see right at the top of that homepage is a place where you can enter your email and become a part of my monthly subscription, my mid-monthly message, where I am just simply giving you that little nudge in the middle of the month to remember that whatever it was you set out to achieve with all that energy at the outset of the month and whatever those lofty goals may be at the end of the month, that you're not going to lose sight of that journey in between. Become a part of my community today. Head to careercompetitor.com, enter your email, and look forward to my next mid-monthly message. Now, let's get right into the show. Hello there, and welcome in to this episode of Career Competitor, where I get to welcome in Dre Baldwin. And Dre, as any other guest on Career Competitor, will get the introduction that he deserves here in just a moment. But here's three key insights that Dre will be providing within this conversation. Firstly, how are you doing the work to ensure you know what you're committing to? Secondly, we discussed what are you doing to externalize your expertise in ways to create a value around you. And then finally, we're going to cover what can you be doing to reveal the opportunities that match your ambition or potential. This is going to be the final episode of Career Competitor as you know it today with my guest, Dre Baldwin. We are about to go through an entire rebranding over the next few weeks. So enjoy the end of this chapter of Career Competitor as we set you up for what is to come in the not too distant future. So again, let's introduce Dre Baldwin to Career Competitor, and I hope you all enjoy. Okay, our guest is CEO and founder of Work on Your Game Incorporated, which is a framework to help entrepreneurs and professionals with performance and consistency to produce results. Our guest has established themselves as a highly regarded public speaker, having delivered 4 TEDx talks, and is also kept very busy as the author, having now authored 35 books. You heard that right. Our guest is also a former athlete with a 9-year professional basketball career that led him to play in 8 different countries. Their daily Work on Your Game masterclass has amassed over 2,900 episodes and over 7.3 million listeners. And his framework is the roadmap in reverse for professional mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. There's no doubt that we will be getting a masterclass today in what it means to work on your game in a personal and professional way. I am so excited to be welcoming to the podcast Mr. Dre Baldwin. Dre, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent, Steve. Thank you for bringing me on. Hopefully I can live up to that introduction.
No doubt, man. No doubt. You've been living up to that introduction for some time, so I don't see why we would be wavering at all today. I want to just start with anybody that is a former athlete. I have to go straight to that and just ask you, when I think about the journey of this podcast and how we actually started with this premise of how do we sit down with athletes and maybe even learn from what it was that made them the athlete they were and how it is they're now executing and implement some of those same characteristics in their day-to-day. I want to start right there with you, man, right where we started with this show 6 years ago. When you think about your athletic journey, what has that journey done for the version of yourself that you are today?
Well, it's everything. It's the foundation. The basis of what Work on Your Game is about is taking the stuff that I learned and developed and needed to make it as an athlete and applying them off the court, outside of the sports realm, in the business and the professional world. So it's just the foundation of that this is a performance and a results-based business. That's what sports is. Sports is the closest thing to a meritocracy we have in the world, because no amount of connections can overcome the fact that you can't play once you get on the field. Whereas in the business world, you can maybe get away with that if you know the right person, but in the sports world, you can't lie. because the sports world is based on an objective arbiter known as a scoreboard. And scoreboards don't have opinions, they don't have feelings, and they don't have relationships. They just tell you the truth. So that's the foundation of where I come from. And it's all about showing up consistently and doing that job and performing. So that's what Work on Your Game is all about.
Yeah, I love the premise of exactly what you've laid down here, because I think let's start right there in the truth. Whenever someone brings up the truth, I'm just going to run right toward that as a topic, as a theme for discussion, because we don't talk about it enough, and it actually scares most people, right? And it seems to be one of these things that here you are bringing it up, and how in your athletic career as a basketball player, all you were handed was the truth. The scoreboard only told you the truth.
Right.
How are you maybe even just working on that very sentiment with the folks that you're obviously working with today? How are you addressing the truth and helping people maybe get more comfortable with it?
Well, it's a funny thing, because of the world that we live in today, where people seem to take a lot of liberties with the truth. When a person like myself comes along, and people can tell by my delivery, even when I'm talking about an evergreen topic, or if I talk about something that's happening in the world, or even just tell a story from my own background, a lot of people in my audience say, Dre, I love the fact that you just get to the point and you're real and you are objective, or at least I try to be as objective as a human can be. Nobody can be completely objective. But even when people disagree with me, I even get people in my audience say, well, Dre, I disagree with your conclusion, but I respect the way that you built your argument. I respect how you laid that out and why you came to the conclusion that you came to, even if I don't feel the same way that you feel. So one of the most interesting things that I found, Steve, with the people who I work with these days is when I ask them, what is it about my approach and what I'm doing that is drawing you in? They never talk about the deliverables, like the things that you mentioned in my bio. They talk about what I just said, that you keep it real, you're honest. I know that I can have a real conversation with you, and I can tell you what's really going on, and you're going to give me some real feedback on what's happening. And that's what people really appreciate the most.
Yeah, and I'm curious immediately when you talk about feedback and the world that you're coming from as a basketball player. Again, my background was in the sport of swimming. Feedback, again, it was so important when you were playing a game, when you were in a sport, that feedback was what it needed to be. No matter whether you wanted to hear it, it was what you needed it to be. And how are you maybe navigating some of that now in the work that you're doing in terms of getting people way more comfortable with just simply hearing what they need to hear, as opposed to, as you said there's those liberating ways around the truth where they're maybe trying to hear what they want to hear? How do you get to the need behind what they need to hear?
Well, the biggest thing is, first of all, we got to be able to look at situations accurately and as they are, which is, again, why I love the background from sports. So one of the things is I get people ready for it before you get deep into my world, before you pull out your wallet, any content. Someone listens to this conversation right here. Someone watches a YouTube video or follows me on social media. You're going to see me talking about things in a real and direct way. Again, doesn't mean you are going to agree with me, but I'm talking about things in a real and direct way. So people already know how I am before you take another step. So that's the first thing, is getting people ready for that. So I already know I'm dealing with thick-skinned individuals if they even raise their hand and say, hey, this is a step that I want to take. So that's how I start with that. But tell me what the rest of that question was. I'll make sure I'm answering it.
Yeah, no doubt. The notion of just simply being able to help someone hear what they need to hear, and getting to the heart of the need in that feedback, as opposed to maybe walking around it and focusing more on the want of what they want to hear. Like, how are you navigating that with these folks that clearly, from what I'm hearing, are already coming in with the understanding that if you don't have thick skin, this probably isn't the right place for you in the first place?
Correct. Right. So this is basically pre-framing is what I'm doing. So it's showing people from the beginning. This is one of the reasons why all of us create content, stuff that people can consume for free, is they get a pretty good feel of who you are, how you are, your communication style, what you care about, what you don't care about. Your perspective on life or whatever subject you're talking about. So by the time someone's consumed a good amount of your content, if they raise their hand and say, I want to take another step and come deeper into your world, you already know that they know what it is and how you are. So that actually, the free content that we put out saves all of us, I think, a lot of time, because it keeps us from having to screen through people who are probably not the right fit.
Yeah, I'm immediately so curious with your own story and how you got to this point, and again, we are both in this space that we're in right now, working in this space of personal and professional development. And I walk around with this label as a coach. And one thing that in my mind, I'm always trying to do is help people understand that before you come to the table, to use this notion that you just use here, this pre-framing, for them to go away and do enough work about knowing who they're coming to the table with. And I would love to just maybe hear if you have a time in your life where you had to learn that lesson, maybe the hard way, or you just simply learned that lesson of just like, hey, don't ever necessarily commit to something if I don't really know what it is I am committing to.
So a situation where I didn't maybe know fully what I was committing to, but then I realized it was a bad idea.
Right.
I probably had a few of them. I don't know if there's anyone that was super tragic, but let's say I remember years ago, this is the first thing I'm thinking of. I was on YouTube, and this is back in my basketball days, and I was mostly posting basketball content. And I signed up with this multi-channel network, and they basically a company would get a bunch of YouTube channels together, and then they would sell advertising stuff for you. And I remember the day that I signed up with them, I signed the agreement and all that, sent it back to them. Then the next morning, it just didn't sit well with me that I made the decision. And probably about a week into it, I told them, hey, I don't like this decision. I want to get out of it. And they said, we'll let you out, but no, we get to keep the money from this last week from when we signed you up. And I said, fine, I got out of it. That's the first thing that I'm thinking in my head. But other than that, I don't think I have anyone that was like super major. Usually when I find myself in the wrong situation, usually I just get myself out of it. But I don't know if I have anyone that was so bad that it scarred me.
Yeah, but I immediately hearing you even say that, my mind goes to, okay, clearly there's been something about your experience and the way you've lived your life that is allowed to create that awareness, that intuition of just saying like, okay, something about this is telling me that something's off, that something's not in alignment that it needs to be. And in what ways did basketball, I have to assume that being the greatest influence when it comes to that intuition, like in what ways did basketball allow you to actually create that filter, if you will, that intuition of just knowing, hey, before I commit, know what I'm committing to?
Well, the great thing about not only playing basketball for a living, but also the internet kind of pumping up, like I guess Web 2.0 in that era when the social medias and the make your own websites and blogging was around maybe about 2005-ish, which is the same year I started playing pro ball. So I had a good amount of autonomy when it came to my professional life, because I was on the internet building an audience that I didn't know I could monetize until years later. And at the same time, I'm playing professional sports for a living. So the only thing I had to do was play on the court, maybe market and sell myself a little bit. But I wasn't dealing with the same type of things that most people deal with in dealing with bureaucracies and politics and all these different people who have different agendas. You don't have so much of that in the sports world. It still exists because it is anytime you have, as they say, you put three people in a room, you get politics. So anything can be political, but the sports world is the least political space that you have in society. And then being on the internet in the early days, this is before everybody else was doing it. So if you had an idea and you know how to get it up there and put a price tag on it, you could clean up pretty well and not even be that good. And I wasn't that good. I had an idea and I executed on it. That's the reason why I was able to do that. So I had a lot of autonomy when it came to my professional life. And I think that's why I don't have so many of those stories, simply because I wasn't in the bureaucratic spaces that most people go through even before. It's one of the things that lead a lot of people to entrepreneurship, because they don't want to deal with that anymore. And those are a lot of people who I work with today.
Yeah. And it's even why I went down this path of just learning a little bit more about where that intuition came from, because I hear a lot of myself and everything that you're providing right now. Like, again, it takes a lot for me to commit to something, because typically I've done my homework and I know, hey, this is someone that I can trust and like I can go into work with. This is someone who's maybe it's from the other side, someone that's coming to me, and it's just like, without them necessarily knowing, I'm doing a little bit of a background check on them to make sure, hey, is this going to be someone who is committed for the 12 months that we're working together? And is this someone that's going to give me the fulfillment that I want to have within my business, etc.? And to your point, I think having that background of just creating autonomy as an athlete and understanding what it means to be autonomous. It's one thing to sort of tell someone, hey, you have autonomy. and then to actually be able to do something with it. Because I think that's what makes an entrepreneur, right? They don't have anybody checking in to see whether or not they show up to work on time or they stay late. They just do it anyway. And I would love to just know from your perspective, as having been an entrepreneur now for some time, what is it about that life that just makes sense to you? Why is Dre Baldwin an entrepreneur?
Well, number one is I was introduced to the concept of sales at a young age, probably maybe late teens. And the concept was, as it was explained to me, that in sales, if you perform better than a person in the cubicle next to you, you make more money than them. And if you perform worse, then you make less money than them. And again, being an athlete, I've always loved the idea that you should be rewarded based on your performance or penalized based on your lack of performance. And I said, that makes perfect sense. I wouldn't want to work somewhere and me and another person are getting paid the same amount, even though I am vastly outperforming them. So I want my rewards to be based on my performance. And if I fail to perform, then I don't get any rewards. I'm completely okay with that. So I, first of all, was angled towards sales. Then I got introduced when I was in maybe halfway through college, I got introduced to network marketing, which I didn't stay in, but I dabbled in. And network marketing is sales. They don't say that when you come to the first meeting, but it is sales. And at the same time, you get an entrepreneurship kind of crash course. You get this crash course in entrepreneurship and also personal development, which is what we both ended up in. So my experience in network marketing was very valuable to me because the personal development angle, because I didn't know what personal development was until I got introduced to network marketing. And you learn a whole lot about entrepreneurship because that's all pretty much they're doing is at the meetings. They're just teaching you about principles of entrepreneurship that me with a 4-year business degree was never taught in class. They never taught that in school, the stuff that they were teaching at these meetings. So that's how I first got angled towards the entrepreneurship thing. The other thing is in that experience in network marketing, they're the ones who they would always tell the people in the room, go get the books, read these people. And they would name drop people. So that's how I found Napoleon Hill, which was my segue into personal development, Think and Grow Rich. And then I found Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was the seed that was planted for entrepreneurship. And when I read that book, I said, why are they not teaching this in school? Why are the teachers teaching this? I'm in college. They don't teach this stuff. And that's what told me I'm going to be an entrepreneur after basketball. So I'm going to play basketball first. When that's done, I'll be an entrepreneur because I knew that athletes have a shelf life. Most athletes are out of their careers as athletes before the age of 40. But assuming we live to the age of 80 or 100, we still have more than half of our lives left to live. So I knew I was going to do something after sports. And then when I found myself at a certain point, not sure about my career prospects as a basketball player, that's when I started jumping onto the internet because I've always been a bit of a computer geek at the same time of being an athlete. I jumped onto the internet, and once I saw there was an opportunity there, I jumped on that. The good thing about being an athlete, Steve, is that our full-time day is not 8 hours of work. A long day might be a little bit less than half of that. So we have a good amount of time to do what we want to do. And I just happen to be on computers and blog, write books, make videos.
Yeah, give me a some sort of timestamp here. Like when is this all happening? Is your career's finishing and you're starting to really pick up some momentum with this idea and this autonomy that you're trying to build for yourself? What is the time around this?
So this all happened while I was still playing. So just to give people context, I didn't start playing basketball until I was 14. I only played 1 year high school basketball and I walked on to Division III college. So anybody who knows the sports world, Division III does not produce the pros. The pros come from Division I. So I graduated college in 2004. All right. So I didn't get my first contract until 2005. So it was a year gap. I was working at Foot Locker and Bally Total Fitness in that year. Didn't sign a contract till after a year removed from college. Started playing in 2005. That's when I got on YouTube. But I wasn't monetizing anything on the internet. I was just putting the content out and I slowly started to build an audience. I built an audience. I started putting videos out sporadically. I got a little bit more consistent around 2007, 2008, but still sporadic. 2009, Google purchases YouTube. And I heard that now Google is going to start allowing you to monetize your videos through ads and you can make money off the ad revenue. Now, at this time, I happened to be an unemployed professional basketball player. So I had played in a few places. I played in Lithuania, a traveling team in the United States. I was in Montenegro. I was in Germany. But at that time, I was unemployed. I was in the United States unemployed and here in Miami, Florida. So I heard about the YouTube thing and I said, okay, well, if I can make money from my YouTube videos, then I'll just put out videos more consistently. So I said, I'm going to put out videos every day. This was a bold idea. I'm going to put out videos every day. And at the same time, I just finished reading Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And I started reading his blog. And on his blog, he said, if you want to sell a product on the internet, here's a little experiment. You can find out if there's a viable market, and here's how to sell it and all that. Very simple experiment. I followed his experiment, and I saw that I had a viable market for selling training programs to basketball players because I already had an audience of basketball players on YouTube. So my first product was a $4.99 program for basketball players, how to practice dribbling. And the second product, I put them out at the same time, was same audience for shooting the basketball. So my first two products were $4.99 a piece. I put those out in 2009, and I made sales that same night. I had a BlackBerry phone. Did you have a BlackBerry back in the day? Okay, so the BlackBerry phone at that time, if you got an email or a text message, the little red light would start blinking. So I got the red light blink, and it said, congratulations, you made a sale, $4.99. So when I made that sale, Stephen, I said to myself, I can do this for the rest of my life. I can take an idea out of my head, turn it into something real, put a price tag on it, and sell it, because I knew I had a lot of ideas. And through my experience on the internet, I realized that my ideas were not, quote unquote, common sense. I realized that these things that I knew were things that other people didn't quite understand. So that if I could package them up, I could actually sell these to people because it wasn't common knowledge. So this is what we now know as intellectual property. I didn't know that phrase back then, but I said, I got plenty of intellectual property. I could sell this stuff forever. Right. And at that time, I was only thinking basketball. Little did I know that once I started talking about mindset, same thing. This was not the way most people thought. Yep. And then as I learned more about business and entrepreneurship, same thing. This is not the way most people think. And because of my experience as an athlete, you get social skills, people skills, communication skills, public speaking skills, teamwork skills, leadership skills, all of these things that I had learned over the course of just living life. I came to realize that most people do not understand these things. So this is not just something I should just put out for free, because people will pay for this because they need it. And they don't even know that they don't know it. So that's how I knew that if I could just package up intellectual property, I have a whole career here that can probably be bigger for me than basketball is or was. And it is to this very day. I mean, most people don't know me from being a professional basketball player. Right? People know me, they know me from YouTube, right, which is not professional basketball. They don't know me because I was playing in Lithuania. Most people can't even find that country on a map, right? So that's how it all got started. So to give you a timeline, so that was 2009 when I started putting out my products. 2010, I started talking about mindset for athletes, and then non-athletes heard it and said, hey, this applies to us as well. I stopped playing in 2015, and that's when I started doing the speaking. But I was writing books already at that point. I was creating courses at that point, and I was selling my products from 2009 up through that point. So when I stopped playing in 2015, Steve, I already had this momentum of stuff going on.
That's right. I love it, man. Yeah. I appreciate all that context. I think our listeners will too, mainly because what I like about stories like yours, I don't always ask people to sort of give me a bio and a background, but I think it's so important with your story to do this, because I want to believe that there may be either an athlete right now or somebody who's in an industry right now that does have a little bit of flexibility and that can start to get a little bit creative around some of these ideas that you spoke to that you had. And like, hey, what did some of these first steps look like? This show has become this sort of melting pot of different insights and messages over the last 6 years. And one of those messages has become entrepreneur. Like it really has. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, there's few things that require more of a competitive mindset than that of being an entrepreneur. Chances are it's me versus me every day, but it's still a competition. It's still a demand of oneself to bring the best out of what you can do and how you can show up each and every day. And I can now start to see quite clearly the genesis of how work on your game really does come about and why it's you delivering it. I always love to get to the heart of that part of the story too, is you have a business and it's called Work on Your Game. And here I am hearing this and I'm just like, well, duh, like, of course you do. Like, you know, you hear that story. This is a guy that went away and worked on himself, did it diligently. And I have to now assume, Dre, and I want to kind of pass it back to you now, like, I have to now assume that so much of what you're doing today around Work on Your Game speaks to so much of that story that you just provided to us.
No, absolutely. Because none of it would exist if it wasn't for that story.
Right.
So all of that, everything that I do today is sourced from something that happened between the year 2000 and let's say 2010 for the most part. And then I just kept building on it. So when I realized that the non-athletes, the professionals and the entrepreneurs, they were interested in what I was offering on the mindset piece, then I started to learn, okay, if I'm going to be in business, I need to get a business education. I didn't get it in school, even though I have the degree. So now I had to get my own, as they say, the self-education. So reading books, taking courses, going to conferences, signing up for programs. I've been doing that stuff. And again, I realized most people don't do this stuff. So that's where I saw that I had an opportunity. If I can just take what I've learned, put it into my own language and through my own experience, now I can repackage it and teach it to other people.
Yeah, and something I'm really hearing come through here too is the need for us to stop and connect with our own stories, like just connect with our own journeys, right, and pull from them, and not be afraid to pull from them, and see ourselves as the resource that we potentially can be. Because this is something I'm not learning from you per se, but I'm fully aware of this myself. But what I will say is that I want to believe that people listening right now are learning this in the moment of the importance of saying, hey, man, am I a resource in myself? Do I actually have a value that if I were to just press pause for a minute once in a while and just look inwardly and look back a little bit and say, wow, there's a whole bunch of value in here. And again, coming back into the here and now with what you're doing with Work on Your Game, how much of that is part of what it is you're doing today? Helping people just simply see that, shoot, there's a value in me. And if I just press pause and do some of this work that Dre's offering, who knows what I'm capable of.
Yes, there's a ton of it there. The interesting thing is, as you asked that question, a lot of times when people come to me, they already have an idea of a thing they want to execute on and get done. So let's say they're finishing a book, but they don't know how to build a sales funnel, or they want to be a speaker. They already know what they want to speak about, but they don't know how to go about the business side of it. Or maybe they have something they want to speak about, but it's probably not that good of an idea. So I have to move them to a better idea that will help them. So a lot of times people show up already with an idea, a thing that they want to do. And then once we can take care of that, then we can say, okay, let's step back and look at everything, you in totality, and let's see what other opportunities there are in here. Because even with myself, Steve, I'm still looking at stuff that I have, and I'm like, man, there is so much opportunity just in the stuff that I have that I haven't even milked it all yet, especially with the technological advances we have these days. So we can get a lot of that out there even faster and easier than what we thought 10 years ago.
I wonder if you relate to this, because I definitely do. This is something I experience all the time, is that the more I create that community, whether it be through my offering and services or just through my network, the more I create that community for this kind of stuff, the more it makes you want to keep doing it for yourself too. You want to keep making that time to double down on the very thing that you're providing. That's kind of what I'm hearing here from you, is like all this stuff that's worked to get you to this point. It's not like it's got you to a point where you now see, hey, I've arrived and this is the finish. It's almost creating greater sense of urgency. I'm hearing like, I got to keep doing this work. I got to keep learning. I got to keep growing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and it's funny because I was just reading this yesterday. I'm sure you may be familiar with Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels guy.
Yeah.
So I was reading. I'm subscribed to their newsletter. So I was reading his newsletter just the other day, and it was an old one because I'm behind. But he was talking about he always mentions it. He talked about the level 10 opportunity, and anybody's been to one of Russell's events. I've been to the ClickFunnels conference many times. He always puts up this graphic where he's telling the story of how they tried like 131 different products or services or offers before they found what became ClickFunnels and then became a $1 billion company. He became a overnight success after 15 years. And he talks about the level 10 opportunity is not about the ability of the person, because you can have a very high level of skill, but if you're in the wrong opportunity, there's only so far you can go. There's a ceiling on it. And if you put an average skilled person in a level 10 opportunity, you're going to do great because the opportunity is just big enough to serve them. So for me, I'm saying all that to say, I don't even feel I'm at my level 10 opportunity yet. This is what I'm doing right now is not the level 10 opportunity. I think what I'm doing these days is maybe a 3 or a 4.
Oh.
So it's just a matter of how do I find it. Doesn't mean I may have to throw everything I'm doing away, but it just may be a different approach, a different angle, a different audience, a different way that I'm packaging it that can get to that bigger opportunity. But I know that what I'm doing now is not the level 10.
All right. We couldn't be at a better point right now. with you having said what you just said, to really hammer this stuff home to our listeners, because what I'm hearing, everyone's just heard it. Everyone's just heard the last 15, 20 minutes of the work that you've done, the career that you've created, the way in which you've been autonomous in so many ways. You've been disciplined, you've grown, you created a community. There's so many things that people listen to this and being like, this guy's kind of done it. Like he's kind of arrived in many different ways. He's got so much going for him. And yet immediately here you are saying, okay, there's something about the opportunity I have right now that is still either limiting. It comes with a ceiling that I wasn't necessarily aware of, but now that I really look at it, I'm like, oh shoot, this ceiling is a little bit lower than I wanted it to be. I want to be somewhere where the ceiling is either a lot higher or there isn't even a ceiling there. And that's what I'm hearing from you. So why should, if someone's listening to this and they're just like, well, man, now that you come to say it, Dre, I think I'm in like a 2 or 3 too. I think my opportunity. Why should someone want to make the change? Why should someone want to do the work to go find that level 10 opportunity that you just alluded to?
Great question. So it's like multiplication. So you want to get to 100. The goal is to get to 100. So you're multiplying the level of the opportunity versus the level of your skill set. So you still continue to work on your skill set. I believe skill-wise, as long as I stay in this lane of personal and professional development, I'm at 9 or 10, skill-wise. But you multiply that by a level 4 opportunity, then your ceiling is 40.
Yeah.
Right? So if you put me in a level 8 opportunity, my ceiling is 80. You put me in a level 10, now I can get to 100. So you want to keep looking and keep working to get to that best opportunity, because that allows you to create the highest level of, first of all, return on investment for yourself. I mean, we are in business for a reason. Also, so that you can serve more people. And so you can serve people at a higher level, because the more returns that you are creating, the better you can service the people who you're called on to help. So this is the reason why you keep doing it. And another reason why you keep looking is makes me think of Napoleon Hill. And my favorite book by Hill was called The Law of Success, from which Think and Grow Rich derived. He says that when you find you have a plan that's not working, then you replace it with another plan and another one and another one until you find the one that does work. And most people's lack of persistence in this process is the major reason why most people meet with failure, because they are unwilling, and nobody's unable, but unwilling to persist when the thing that they're working on now is not quite the thing that they want it to be.
Love that we're doing some math today, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, that's as far as I'll go with math.
I'm right there with you. Like skill set multiplied by opportunity. I mean, what a beautiful way to look at it. And so in many ways, so simple. I mean, everyone can do a subjective test right now and just stop and say, hey, how would I rate my skill set on a scale of 1 to 10? And then how would I maybe rate the opportunity that I have in my life right now on a scale of 1 to 10? What's that number? Right. And am I happy with that number? Am I good with that number? If I'm not, the heck am I going to do about it? Am I going to sit with that number and just be good at, 43 or 63, whatever it is? Or do I want that 80? Do I want that 90? What might 100 look like? I think that's why we have these conversations that you and I are having right now, because I hope that people listening to this are just going, well, shoot, that sounds like some math that I am due. I'm due that conversation right now while I'm driving in my car, while I'm working out of the gym. Do I feel good about the number that I'm going to come up with there? And something else you said there, and I want to touch on this before we wrap up, is that we can have a lack of persistence sometimes. Like I love getting in with persistence. I want to swim around with persistence. I love that stuff. For me, it's the fun time. It's the whiteboard opportunities, just to put some stuff up on a whiteboard and say, hey, how do I break through this potential situation that I'm dealing with right now, or whatever it might be. So you said there that no one is unable. No one is unable. We're just simply at times not willing. How do, based on the work that maybe you're doing right now, maybe there is 1 or 2 practices that you have, but how do you shift from that lack of willingness to actually doing something about it and recognizing that you are, in fact, capable of doing something about it?
Well, I think everybody knows that they're capable. But most of the time when I ask people about, you take a concept like discipline, and that's something that I talk about a lot. Probably the strongest mental piece of what I do is discipline. If you were to stop 100 people on the street and ask them, is there any aspect of your life in which you need more discipline? Everybody will laugh and say yes. Everyone agrees that they need more discipline. It's just a lot of people aren't willing to execute on it because they don't understand where it comes from. Many people think discipline comes from willpower or motivation. And motivation can move you to do a thing, but it doesn't translate over into discipline until you have a system or strategy or process for it. So discipline comes from having a structure. Structure creates discipline. You put the right structure in place, then you will be disciplined and you'll execute, because all you had to do is follow what the structure says. So you say you're a systems guy. So you put the right systems in place in a business and you actually follow your system, then you'll be disciplined without even thinking about it, if you just do what the system says. And where systems come from is standards. Standards and decisions. When you set a standard for yourself and say the standard is I'm going to be in this type of shape, whether I'm playing a sport or not, then you need to create a system to make sure that you can live up to that standard. And then when you follow the system, you'll be disciplined. And someone says, man, how do you stay in such great shape? And then you just work it backwards. I have a standard. My standard leads to this system. The system leads to these actions. Those actions, people look at it and say, wow, you're really disciplined. All you're doing is following the system that was already put in place, whether you made it or somebody else did. So the persistence is a byproduct of discipline. So that it all cascades down. Standards, systems, discipline. Standards, structure, discipline, persistence. And then the persistence leads to, of course, the goal is for it to lead to outcomes.
If there was ever a time to use the go back 15 seconds in a podcast, I recommend everybody do that like 5 or 6 times right now. Just go back another 90 seconds and listen to that one more time, because that is gold right there. That understanding of just simply recognizing that there is no discipline without structure, and that we want to be able to create those standards, and that persistence is a byproduct of discipline. You created and provided this approach to something that we struggle with as a society on a daily basis, and you simplified it in a way that can help someone hear that and say, okay, that's it. I need to go home right now. I need to pull up my notes in my phone right now and ask myself, where in that system that Dre just drew out for us, where am I missing? Where are the gaps? Where am I struggling? Where do I not have the accountability that I need in order to truly rely and trust on something like that, so that I can see the results I know I'm capable of? So I really appreciate you doing that. Like I said, that's one of those moments where it's like, if you didn't catch it all, just go back and listen to it again. It's all right. Just go back 2 minutes and listen to that whole thing again, and get a pen ready so you can write that down, because that's some absolute gold right there. Dre, brother, listen, you're one of those guests where I could definitely go another 30 minutes, no doubt at all. Where we could keep talking all day, but I know how busy you are, and I just appreciate all the generosity of insight. I want to allow you to provide us 2 things here, brother. Like, 1, I want you to let people know where we can find you and learn more about you. But 2, just any of that final insights around maybe how we can all just do a better job on working on our game.
Sure. Well, you can find me on all the socials. I'm on every platform. We're active every single day. Just look up my name, Dre Baldwin. As far as our stuff, you can get a free copy of my book, The Third Day, The Decision that Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. We'll give you the book for free, physical copy. We just ask that you cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com. And your last question was, how can people better work on their game? Well, first of all, you got to understand everybody has a game. Whether you're playing a sport or not, you could be a mechanic, a librarian, a construction worker, an entrepreneur, or you could just be trying to figure it out right now. We all have a game. And your job is to, first of all, figure out what game that you're in. A lot of times people are incorrect. They do incorrectly assess what game they're actually in. Know what game you're in. Then you develop your skills to best play that game. Then when you go out there and you want to create an opportunity for yourself to show the game that you develop. And when you show your game, that is the performance. If you perform, then you produce results. When you produce results, you get rewards. And if you want to keep getting those rewards, then you go right back around and do that cycle all over again, that system all over again. Keep working on your game so that you can perform again, produce results again, and get rewards again. And then you just wash, rinse, and repeat. Simplifying it for all of us, whether it be some very basic multiplication or some processes throughout the last 30 minutes, brother. I cannot thank you enough. And what a wonderful way to actually wrap us up here with just this notion of knowing the game, building those skills, creating those opportunities, and then seeing the rewards, and then rinse and repeat. And Dre, brother, thank you for everything in this episode, and for certainly all the work that you're doing right now. Best of luck to you, brother, in continued success, and hopefully we'll catch up down the road. Absolutely, Steve. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for sharing your platform. And my thanks again to Dre for joining us on what is the final episode of this chapter
this part of the evolution that has been Career Competitor, and what a great way to bring this part of our growth to a close in that of just all the insights that Dre was able to provide here. And something I want to leave with you on the way out, it's this notion of the 10 multiplied by 10, trying to hit that 100, that notion of what it is your skill set is versus what the opportunities are that you create. And while I know the opportunity and the idea of the level 10 opportunity came from Russell Brunson, I love how Dre has been able to kind of spin it here for himself and for the work that he's doing, and to make it incredibly relatable for anybody listening. We want to all find that 100. We want to find that perfect balance, that match of what it means to really optimize our skill set and do it in an opportunity that we know either comes with the highest of high ceilings or comes without the ceiling, where we know we are just going to be able to keep going and keep pushing in so many incredible ways. And the reason why I am so excited to be able to address that as a key insight as we bring this part of our story to a close with Career Competitor is we are now setting ourselves up for what will be the next phase of this podcast. That is right. Career Competitor is going to be transitioning into a new podcast with a new title. And interestingly enough, this episode here with Dre is just the perfect way to address how and why it is that we're making this change. How we're making this change? Well, it's quite simple. Over the next 4 or 5 weeks, we are going to be off the air. We're going to be quiet. We're going to be getting a whole bunch of new interviews, and we're going to be setting up what will be this next phase of the podcast. The name Career Competitor will no longer exist, and we will have a brand new name. I'm excited to be introducing that name to you here publicly very soon. But in the meantime, why we're doing this is because the way in which our conversations have just organically grown in the past 18 months, it demands that we now evolve with it as a show. We are now moving more away from just simply, hey, what does it mean to optimize your career? And we're now in this space of what does it mean to optimize yourself, the performance that you bring with it, how are you growing, what are you doing to prepare and ready yourself for growth as well. There's some couple of sneak peek insights there, some teasers, if you will, in that last bit of what the episode, or what the show, is going to become in the not too distant future. I'm excited for it. It's time, and I know you're going to come with me because you've been with me up to this point as a listener. And so I'm really excited to be bringing this out very soon. And I'm going to take I'm going to take the rest of August off as a podcast, and we will return in the middle towards the end of September, as long as things align and things happen in the way I'm planning them to. But I just thank you so much for bringing Career Competitor to this point where we find it now, because it cannot get here without you. And I'm just so excited to bring now to you what will be the next chapter in our evolution. So excited for it. I appreciate Dre for joining us on what is the last episode of Career Competitor as you know it, but we will be evolving. It is still me. It is still the same concept, but everything about us is going to level up, similar to what Dre was just talking about. We're going to level up this podcast now, and we're going to do it deliberately, intentionally, and we're going to do it so we bring you along and give you every reason to come along for the ride. So thank you so much for listening to this episode and for all the other episodes that have come under the title of Career Competitor. And I'm excited to see you on the other side of this short break of the show, and just to simply bring to you what I know is going to be an even better, improved upon concept and delivery of what this show is all about. Best of luck in anything and everything that you're doing. And bye for now.